Olá, bem-vindos ao Low Key Portuguese. Welcome to Low Key Portuguese. Today we're going to look at variable demonstratives. I know, sounds like really fun stuff, right? So variable demonstratives is this video is a continuation or an extension or a parallel video to the video that I put out on invariable demonstratives, the last video. I'm sure there'll be a card somewhere or at the end. There'll definitely be a link in the description. So check that video out in conjunction with this one. They kind of go hand in hand. One thing will help explain the other and vice versa. So variable demonstratives are used to refer to this and that in the context of this microphone, this cell phone, right? When you're referring to a very specific item and you want to use that referential term, this or that, right? And again, just like in English and in our last video, it has to do with perspective, and also we have to think about the relative proximity of objects to the speaker or to the recipient of speech. That's essentially the triangle that we want to think about, the relationship between the speaker and the recipient of the speech. Eu, remember eu, the speaker, e tu, o recipient, the recipient of speech. So you really want to think about that perspective always when you're referring to this and that. Just like in your native language of English. It's really not any different in that aspect. The only thing is that in Portuguese, or not the only thing, but one of the things to keep in consideration is that there's that third person perspective that we have to factor in, that third person relative location of objects, right? It's the object's not always going to be near me nor near the speaker. It may be something off away from both of us. And just like with our invariable demonstratives, we have to factor in that third person perspective. So, and I mentioned before, it's one of the things, again, gender and quantity. They're definitely things you need to keep into consideration when looking at the variable demonstratives, this and that. The invariable, like, what is that? What is this? That sort of questioning, right? That sort of seeking of answers, right? That's a very important way in which we need to ask things, right? What is this? What is that? But at the same time, when we can just say, like, this is boring, right? This video is really interesting, right? That sort of thing. I can say this and just refer to the thing, or this thing. That's the difference. We're looking at using the this and that with the item that we're referring to. So the variable demonstratives, again, we need to factor in quantity and gender when we're looking at these, because again, we now know the object, right? We're referencing that object concept in our speech. So we want to now apply the gender and quantity endings to the this and that. And the words are fairly similar, slightly different from the invariable demonstratives. So here are our variable demonstratives. We'll just place them all out for you so you can see them, and we can look at them together and really try to make sense of this. So again, on the right hand side, you can see there this and that. Obviously that's the singular. We have our these and those on the left hand side of the screen here. So for the singular, we'll start off with the referential item near the speaker, right? The thing that's near me, for example. So right now I have a cell phone. Telemóvel is the word, one of the words we can use to reference a cell phone. Telemóvel. And telemóvel is masculine. So, o telemóvel. So if I want to talk about this cell phone that I have here, este telemóvel. Este. There's only one, so it's este telemóvel. Este. Now let's say, for example, I was going to talk about, I have this guitar pick here laying around. The word for guitar pick is palheta. Palheta. So if I want to talk about this guitar pick, this pick, esta palheta, esta palheta, este telemóvel, esta palheta. Okay, both singular, one's masculine, the other one's feminine, so we have to make that change from este, esta. And just a little thing on esta, just to be clear, it's very much spelt like está, right? Our third person, or você, our formal U of the verb estar, right? To be, or transient to be. So it's really important to factor in that accent at the end of está and how it is not used in esta. So there's a difference there, right? Esta for this, feminine, singular. Esta palheta. Or if I had multiple estas palhetas, but it's not está. Keep that in mind, right? It's similar. It's easy to get tricked up with that, but at the same time, keep in mind. Este, masculine, esta. Okay, there's no accent, there's no stress on any of the syllables, and esta, just you spread the cadence across each syllable equally without that accent there. So again, one more time. If it's near me, if it's near the speaker, este, esta. If it's near the recipient of the speech, if I'm referring to an object near you, esse. So let's say that cell phone that you have in your hand or computer, I'm going to assume that you're watching this somewhere, that you're holding either a device or at a device, and both of those devices would be masculine. Telemóvel, cell phone. Computador, computer. Computador. O computador, o telemóvel. O PC, sometimes people refer to it as that, but regardless, it's going to be masculine. So we're going to go with esse PC, esse telemóvel, esse ecrã. If we're going to talk about the screen, if we would just refer to the screen that you're on, esse ecrã. So esse for masculine objects near the recipient of the speech that you are referring to as a speaker, right? If that thing is feminine, let's say you are holding a guitar pick, right? Essa palheta, essa palheta. So the word for that's away from me, the speaker, but it's near you, the recipient of the speech. Essa. Esse for singular masculine. Essa. One more time. Esse, essa. And the E at the end of esse, it's just like that E that you see in very, very many Portuguese words. It's there, but it's not, right? It's there, but it's the buffer letter. It helps soften that consonant that's usually before it, almost always, if not always. And also, it's just a trailed off E. So you'll notice that in lots of Brazilian dialects. Brazil has massive different ways of people speaking the language. You know, it's a vast country. So to say that in Brazilian, it's like this. In certain parts of Brazil, in certain areas of Brazil, there are ways of speaking Portuguese that they would very much pronounce that E at the end. It's very much highlighted and they lean into it. In Portugal, that's not that common. Like amongst European Portuguese speakers that have that really hard E there. I will say that growing up in the village that I'm in, just outside Figueira da Foz, my older relatives, I remember like my grandmother kind of using words or saying words and would kind of really pronounce that E. So it's one of those things. It's a dialect thing. It's definitely not the norm to hear that, but I wouldn't say you'd never hear a highly pronounced E at the end of a word. It's just really not what you're normally going to hear. It's not the correct way to pronounce that word. Pronounce that construction, that consonant E at the end, but again, your experiences may vary. But ultimately, if you want to try to speak like the natives, go with that esse. And then for the feminine, essa. That one's a little bit more straightforward. That A at the end without the accents, just pronouncing it as a regular cadence syllable there, right? Essa. And again, esse, essa, that. Now we're going to move on to our third person perspective that does not exist in English, right? We just kind of assume that the recipient of our speech understands based on the context what we're referring to. But in Portuguese, there is a particular word that we use to go with that concept, right? That thing that's far away from both the speaker and the recipient of the speech. It's off in the distance, and it could be, I say distance, it could be just far enough from both of us that it's not near either one of us. So that word is aquele and aquela. Aquele, aquela. So again, if we were just going to use the same items, let's say the cell phone's on the table over there from away from both of us, right? We're in a in a relatively close proximity, but the cell phone's left on the counter over there, and I want to refer to that cell phone. I'm going to say aquele telemóvel ali, aquele telemóvel ali. Ali is that also that third person perspective there, right? So these things all kind of have to match up if you're going to use them all in the same sentence. So there's another video that you can watch relating to this concept of perspective, relative location, as opposed to demonstrative words like here, there, and this and that, these and those, here and there, those. Aquele and aquela would be the term that we would kind of go in line there with if we're going to go with our just invariable demonstrative, aquilo, that thing over there. I don't know what it is, so I can't give it a masculine or feminine ending. I'm not sure if it's singular or plural even. I don't know. Aquilo, that thing over there. Aquilo, que aquilo. And then the response, aquilo é, that thing is, and then I would get the understanding. But now I know what it is. I say, aquele telemóvel, or aquela casa, that house over there, aquela casa. Away from both of us, singular. Okay, factor in the genders, masculine or feminine, and make the appropriate ending. Aquele, singular masculine, aquela, singular feminine. Now let's look at the plural form of these and those. Or this and that, I should say. We're just going to make these plural now. So this is the concept of these and those. So now we're going to just look at all plurals here. So masculine plural. Now these items, or these we'll go with items, itens. We'll use that word. Estes itens, these items, estes itens são meus. These are mine. Estes itens são meus. Now, if I'm going to refer to those things near you, now things, we're going to go with the word things, coisas, estas coisas, right? So now I'm using just a different term, but to kind of illustrate a few things here, right? That there are obviously multiple ways to refer to the same concepts, right? That's the norm in most languages, I would assume. But also that it's not any sort of social or cultural sort of concept that's determining gender in items. Okay, just to be very clear about that. It's just the word itself that has a feminine or masculine quality that would then force or require the appropriate concepts like articles, right? Those sorts of things all sort of need to be in line with it. So it's just to factor in that we can refer to the same things, but we also have to factor in that when we do that with different terms, we also have to modify and understand that there are different genders at play here. So itens, items, right? In English, we don't think about that. Items and things, they're not masculine or feminine. They're just things, right? But in Portuguese, you do have to factor that in. So itens, items, os itens. But if I want to go with things, coisas, as coisas. So if I want to say these things, estas coisas, I'm going to go with the word estas. Estas coisas são minhas. They're mine. These are my things. Estas coisas são minhas. Now let's say you have these things, and I'm going to go with the word things again, but now they're near you. They're your things. Essas coisas são tuas. Essas coisas são tuas. Those things are yours. Essas coisas são tuas. Okay? Now if I want to go with itens, just to kind of be consistent here, esses itens são teus. Esses itens são teus. Okay? Now that's that perspective shift, right? Now for the first one, estes and estas, they're the things near me, the speaker. But if I'm referring to the things near you, now I'm making that shift to esses e essas. But again, we're going to look at that third person perspective here, aqueles and aquelas. So it's the ending aqueles for masculine plural, aquelas for feminine plural. So same words here, we're going to go with itens and coisas, aqueles itens, not these, não estes, aqueles ali ao longe são dele, they're his, são dele, são dele. aquelas coisas, those things, aquelas coisas, just using that different term, different word for the same concept, items and things, aqueles itens, aquelas coisas. Okay? So that's really the difference. It's that perspective shift that we have to factor in, but we do that in English already. That's not any different. We can conceptualize that. It's adding on that third person perspective to that this or that, these and those that are far away from both the speaker and the recipient of the speech. Espero que tenha ajudado. I hope this helped. If there are other concepts that you're wondering about that you'd like to explore a little bit more, let me know. I'll put together quick videos that hopefully will make this palatable and make your journey in European Portuguese fulfilling and get you where you need to be. I'm also putting out some courses soon, some on-demand courses that you go at your own pace. Be on the lookout for those in the upcoming videos. I'll keep talking about them. I'm just kind of getting things ready to really put out a valued product, I think, that will really bring some assistance to those of you that are looking for a more at your own pace kind of learning experience. So be on the lookout for those, and thanks for liking these videos. If you do like them, it helps me out quite a bit. And hope you subscribe. I hope you follow along, get some notifications for our next videos as we keep putting them out. Até a próxima. Até já.